Welcome to MoCo Underground Writers Showcase. My name is Julia Taglier. I'm the founder of MoCo Underground Writers Showcase, and I am a longtime partner and enthusiast of Sandy Spring Museum, and also a newly minted board member. I'm so excited to be on the board of the Sandy Spring Museum. Anybody who's been coming to see these events over the last 6 years knows how much I love this museum. So being able to be a part of it and make sure that it keeps delivering the quality cultural programs to the community is a really, really wonderful gift for me. And so I'm very thankful to Allison Weiss for inviting me. So thank you. It's an honor to welcome you to the MoCo Underground Arts Showcase. This program will culminate months of book discussions, writers' showcases, workshops, and presentations, all inspired by Ya Jesse's novel, Homegoing. Hopefully you have all had a chance to read it. It has been an extraordinary year. Together we have explored themes of community, history, and identity, sparking the writing, art, and reflections you'll experience this evening. Sandy Spring Museum is so grateful to our partners and collaborators, the Montgomery County Public Libraries, the Olive Branch Community Church, and MoCo Underground Writers Showcase, not to toot my own horn. The collaboration on this NEA Big Read series has been instrumental in highlighting regional stories of Black history, celebrating artists of color, and bringing communities together. Beyond grant funding, programs like this are made possible by the dedicated support of our museum members. I am a proud Sandy Spring Museum member, and I invite you to become one too. Members receive benefits, including discounts on events and gift shop purchases. Have you all walked around the corner and looked at this gift shop? You should, as well as invitations to special members-only events. Please visit the museum's website or talk to a museum staff member tonight to sign up. There are several of us wandering around tonight, including yours truly. So welcome. I'm so excited to have everybody here tonight. Just a few little housekeeping items, my little notes. Oh, let's see, check that off. Welcome, done that. Board member, check. Membership, track. Yeah. Strawberry Festival. Did anybody here get to attend the Strawberry Festival this weekend? Woo! Wasn't that something? If you guys missed it this year, it is an extraordinary rebirth of the Strawberry Festival. They took a year off to completely re-envision everything about that festival, and I can tell you, we were there and it was wonderful. So if you did not have a chance to check it out this year, please make sure that you mark your calendar for next year because the tickets sell out fast. Our next reading, for those of you who are paying attention to that sort of thing, will be August 7th. That one will be a Zoom reading. It is not going to be in person. And then I already mentioned, I believe, no snack rattling during the readings. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight. I appreciate everybody's presence. On the back table is our books and materials from the different writers that you will be seeing here tonight. And on the other back table, food and beverage. So please help yourselves, make yourselves comfortable, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first reader will be Laura Sturza. Come on down. Feel free to take pictures also, lots of pictures, and share those.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you so much for hosting us, and thank you to the museum. All right, I'm going to dedicate this to singer-songwriter, composer Brian Wilson. And the title of this piece is, I Never Want to Leave These People, This Place. Los Angeles felt more like home than my suburban Maryland hometown. Every corner of the city on the edge of the Pacific was interconnected, dots on a map linking people and places that brought joy and grace into my life. There was the drab, crowded newsroom where I filed my first news stories as a newly minted City Hall reporter. There was the noisy restaurant where my future husband Tom and I had our first date. It also had sites where my heart was broken. the workplace with the angry boss, and the second-floor apartment where my lush, long-haired calico cat passed away. 20 years after moving there, my mother was in her 90s and needed help. Tom had just retired and was willing to relocate to Maryland to be near her. However, I didn't want to leave California, where I had become more fully formed, thanks to the communities I had joined, filled with people passionate about writing and self-transformation. Whenever I pictured our future, it was always in LA, but I hadn't factored in what the future held for my mother. Fortunately, I could talk it over with friends. Pam and I had a morning routine. We traveled two of the city's busiest routes. She drove on LA's west side, heading north on the 405. I drove the east side on the 5 South. And we talked on our way to work, parsing things out over our phones as if a string connected us between two tin cans. We discussed marriage, work, spirituality, culture, current events, and our bodies. Although we were in separate cars, it felt like she was sitting beside me. Now she listened to me wrestle over whether or not to leave LA. "Are you scared to move?" Pam asked. "I am," I said, while driving 25 miles per hour on a 65-mile-per-hour freeway, brake padding my way alongside my fellow commuters. She and I were quiet for a moment. I passed the exit I took to shows at the Hollywood Bowl, including the Joni Mitchell tribute concert I went to with girlfriends who loved her as much as I did. I began to pre-miss the city and people I feared Tom and I might leave. Your question, Pam, about whether I'm scared, it reminded me of a retreat that I went to 30 years ago, I said. We could jump from a zip line. It stretched from the mountaintop to the ground. And we were standing on top. We were instructed to hold on to a T-bar and jump. The man who was guiding me had to tell me 3 times to step up to the mark and jump. I was frozen. Finally, he said, "Express yourself. Say how you feel." I screamed, "I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared," and jumped. I felt like I was flying. I was crying, laughing, ecstatic. At the bottom were 6 huge, gorgeous men. They were standing there, ready to catch me, and I fell on top of them as they cushioned me. "Does that mean you'll move?" Pam asked. "We'll see," I said, as we wrapped up our call. I parked and walked from the parking lot to my office, careful not to trip on my city's signature uneven sidewalks, looking at the ground. Then I came to a section that was newly repaved, so it was safe for me to look up, and I saw the street was lined with gorgeous purple jacaranda trees. That's when my thinking about the move began to shift. I imagined a coiled old-school telephone cord stretching across the country, connecting me to my LA people. Even if the cord couldn't tether me to the jacarandas, I reminded myself there are cherry blossoms in DC. A few months later, Tom and I moved to Maryland. Since then, my friends on both sides of the country have seen me through the pandemic, through unimaginable changes in our country, and through the transitions my mother faces as she ages. They also cheer me on when I want to quit working on the confounded book that's taken years to write, and they celebrate when my stories are published after dozens of rejections. My friends keep an eye on me. I return the favor, witnessing their most impossible and glorious moments, the rounds of chemo, the losses of family and animals, the books published, the babies born. My most recent visit took place during one of my favorite weeks in Southern California, between Christmas and New Year's, when the freeways are astoundingly quiet. Just after landing, I met Pam. We walked to the ocean, planted our feet in the Pacific, and let the sand and the water fill the spaces between our toes. I felt the need to identify myself as either an Angelino or a Washingtonian dissolve. I would see many other beloved friends on this visit. Amy and I went to an outdoor concert featuring college marching bands who would perform the next day at the Rose Parade. It was December 30th, but so warm and bright we nearly got sunburned. Then Safawa and I spent New Year's Day with 800,000 others at the Rose Parade, marveling at the enormous floats covered with 50,000 flowers each as they rolled past us. What I couldn't have known was that my trip took place a week before the region's most devastating wildfires swept through large areas of LA. 3 close friends became homeless, but later found places to stay. The 100-year-old craftsman-style building where our family and friends had gathered for our wedding was destroyed. Tom and I were among the thousands who had married there. We thought of everyone who worked at that venue, the wait staff, groundskeepers, planners, and cooks. Where would they earn a living? The next morning, I woke up in my Maryland home, unsure. Was I in Maryland or LA? I was ready to pack a go bag in case we had to evacuate. I attended a meditation retreat 2 weeks after the wildfires started and 1 week after the 2025 inauguration. It was a good time to seek respite, as it felt like my 2 hometowns were ablaze. During a guided meditation, I fidgeted at first, then settled into a comfortable position and let the retreat leader's words drift through me. She said, "We can endure, resist, and find solace in moments of joy through our communities and friendships." When she stopped speaking in the quiet, I winced at first as I saw myself walking through the remnants of my friends' scorched LA homes. Next, I thought of all the beautiful buildings on DC's National Mall. I worried about what would happen to those who worked in them over the next 4 years. Many of my friends were federal workers, as my father had been. Then those images faded as I pictured my loved ones from California, DC, and beyond. One by one, they walked in until they filled the retreat room. I was no longer bound by proximity. Being together replenished us, and I knew that geography could not separate me from those I loved. We would continue to rely on one another, no matter what came next.
Being together replenishes us. Absolutely perfect. Thank you, Laura. You left your very funky paperclip on the podium, which also replenishes me. So thank you. Our next reader is John Garton. So John, if you would like to come on up. I believe this is your first time reading here? Yep.
I'm the token novelist, by the way.
No. We love first-time writers, so please welcome John.
Thank you. I'm known as John Garton, but better known as the husband of Susanna Garton, who is one of the resident artists here at the museum. She's an enamelist, so if you get a chance to look at her work, feel free to do that. I am writing my memoirs. I grew up in the Washington area in Alexandria and Waldorf. I was a runner. I went to the University of Maryland, and I lived on the farm in Waldorf. So this is a story about one little piece of that farm. A magical place with a chain-driven vice. Excerpted from Humorous Tales of a Misspent Youth, ... and Beyond, by John W. Garton. We all have a magical place. Magical places are, well, magical. Sometimes it is a real place, and sometimes a place that we wish was real. Sometimes it's a real place that no longer exists except as a memory in our mind's eye. And that mind's eye view will be colored by time and nostalgia, shaping that memory into what we wished was real. The common thread of all magical places is that the very thought of them brings us comfort, warmth, release from stress, peace, and general good feeling. Some people have only one magical place. Others have many. Often people have forgotten their magical place until they have a need to visit. One of my magical places is a barn. Not just any barn, but the barn. It's a barn full of memories on my grandparents' farm. Now close your eyes and see my barn. No, not one of those neat red barns with fresh red paint and lots of open space and clean sawdust floors. Start with a big old ramshackle barn with weathered, unpainted board siding, off-patched roof, barn doors wide open, multi-pane windows so dirty you can't see in and can barely see out. Follow the oyster shell drive down past the farmhouse, the garage, the generator house, and the old Fordson tractor, and you are there. Step inside on a hot August day and immediately feel the coolness of the shaded workshop area. Smell the wonderful smells of old wood beams, tobacco hung to cure, iron and steel, and dirt floors. Smell the glue and wood smells from boat building. Feel the strength of the wooden beams able to support an engine being chain hoisted from an old truck. See the huge old anvil mounted on a tree stump that's undamaged after years of hammering. Look to the left and see the old workbench laden with years of dirt and grime with a chain-driven vise, big enough to hold large tools, auto axles, and almost anything else needing to be held tight for cutting, grinding, torching, or other machining. This part of the barn is where our grandfather built his boats, usually 15 feet 10 inches long, to avoid the higher license fees of a 16-foot boat. He built his boats with a wide beam and large front deck so that we could stand on the deck to catch mating crabs called doublers, who swim on top of the water. Once when the wood on one of his boats had started to soften, he collected cast-off fiberglass cloth and chemicals from a nearby boat-building shop that made fiberglass yachts and light boats. He coated the old boat with fiberglass and added years to the life of the boat. To the right of the work area was a general storage area and a loft with more odds and ends, old tools, spare wood, etc. But the crowning glory of this storage area was the Crosley Hotshot sports car. The engine was gone, but for preteen and early teen boys it didn't matter. We would play in that car for hours, pretending we were racing or driving on mountain roads. People have never heard of a Crosley, but if you Google Crosley Automo Club, you will learn more than you ever wanted to know about Crosley cars. Suffice it to say there was a small, two-seat, sporty-looking car, smaller than a Mazda Miata, bright red, and designed to have no doors. Beyond the workshop was an entrance into the tobacco hanging area. Many people have seen tobacco barns along Maryland country roads with their alternating sideboards open to the breeze, but they never understood why. After being cut, green tobacco stalks are threaded on tobacco stakes and hung in the barn to dry. The sideboards are open to prevent the flow of air to hasten the drying process and to prevent mildew. We only played in this part of the barn occasionally, but it was a great place to catch black snakes. To the right of the tobacco hanging area, a walkway led back to our grandfather's woodworking shop and onto the cow shed in the back. Along the way were old pieces of smaller farm equipment, like a hand-cranked grinding wheel and a hand-cranked corn husker. The corn husker had a grinding wheel with hundreds of small pencil-shaped projections. You shove the grind corn cob in a chute, turn the crank handle, and the knobby projections would remove the kernels from the cob, dump them into a container, and spit out the cob. The centerpiece of the workshop was a large bandsaw that our grandfather would use to make almost anything, from fishing boats to toy sailing boats to the most comfortable Adirondack chairs. He also had a drill press and an assortment of power tools. He was an expert with a disc sander and a draw knife. We got to use this workshop only under his direct supervision. In the far back was the cowshed, with a cement floor crisscrossed with drainage channels. This is where we learned the old farm saying, "It's going to rain like a cow peeing on a flat rock." This was amply demonstrated by our 2 old cows. The barn was old, ugly, dirty, and smelly, the perfect magical place for teen and preteen boys, and it had the chain-driven vise. We used that vise to hold our many damaged bicycle parts as we fixed and rebuilt our bikes after they were severely abused from riding off loading docks into stationary objects that didn't know enough to move out of the way, and often into each other. I've yet to find anyone who's ever heard of a chain-driven vise, but I recently learned that it is currently rusting in my uncle's backyard, so I may have to retrieve it to show the world. After all, not every magical place has a chain-driven vise. Where is your magical place? The end.
It takes a real gift to be able to bring somebody into a particular place and time and to make it feel real. And I really appreciated that, John. I grew up on a farm, and everything you were talking about with the barn and the smells and the things you were and were not allowed to touch just really rang true for me. So thank you for sharing that. It was really lovely. Thank you. Our next reader will be Patricia. Come on down, join us.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, everybody. I'll be reading from the first chapter of the novel referenced in my bio. It's still in manuscript form, so I can make any changes, and during the break, I'd really appreciate any feedback you can give me, especially if you think you'd keep reading. Also, on the table, I put a couple of my cards where it kind of directs you to my website and a monthly newsletter that if you'd follow me, you'll find out how the effort to get this novel published goes. I scooped a spoonful of cereal and scanned the "What's wrong with this picture" drawing on the back of the box. A broom stored in the refrigerator, books shelved under the sink, the wall clock without its hour hand. Tick, tick, tick. Mom shattered the silence. "I don't know why you think you have to go, Aiden. You don't get overtime," she said to Dad. Bang! Dad gavelled his mug on the counter. If he was counting, he didn't make it to 10. "Now what, Monica? What do you need?" Mom waved her hand to cut him off. She didn't need anything. She wanted him to not want to go, but couldn't or wouldn't ask him to stay. So every Saturday, Dad visited 3 or 4 of the advertising accounts he serviced for the Danton Monitor, our hometown daily newspaper, and every Saturday, Mom picked at him for it, like I'd pick at a scab. "People want to be heard, Finn. I try to listen," Dad told me the first time I accompanied him on what he called his rounds. "Besides," he said, grinning and poking me in the ribs, "when I stop in to shoot the breeze on the weekend, I sell more ads during the week." A teacher, Mom talked and expected others to heed. "Ready to go, Finn?" Dad asked, as though we were setting off on an adventure rather than a ride around town. I slurped the last of the milk from my bowl, wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, and nearly knocked over my chair as I shoved it back and jumped up from the seat. "Ready, Dad?" Mom motioned me to her side, swept the mop of sun-bleached hair from my forehead, and mused. "Where has the time gone, Finn? When did you get so big?" I didn't understand her thinking. I'd worn out the previous year's shirts, pants, and jacket before she could hand them down to the scruffy younger Jones twins at school. And I was sure I'd still be the shortest kid in my class when I started 6th grade in a week. Every day I stood tall and sat up straight, and I'd ask Dad if there was a rack or some other equipment to stretch me at Gus's gym where he lifted weights. He'd stifled a laugh and told me not to worry. "You'll have another growth spurt," he said. "You could end up taller than me." But I was afraid I was done growing, afraid I'd be shrimp or short stuff, or worse, ignored. Mom sighed, gave my bangs another brush back, and issued Dad an order. "Well, get his hair cut while you're out, or he won't be able to see the board in school." When Dad snapped to attention, saluted Mom, and said, "Aye, aye, Captain," I froze. His teasing could ease the tension or set her off again. As she leapt from her chair and swatted his shoulder with the rolled-up morning paper, I sucked in a breath, then exhaled, relieved, when she laughed with him and shooed us from the house. The air outside steamed like a shower, and my faded black Star Wars t-shirt stuck to my back. We slid into Dad's 7-year-old Fairlane and wound down the windows because the air conditioning was shot. Dad backed the car down our driveway, turned at the other end of our street in front of my Grandpa Dom's house, and sped downhill into the new day. Waving my arm out the window like Dad did, I echoed his shouts. "Hello, Maple Lawn. Wake up, Washington Avenue." He grinned and messed up my hair, then smoothed and patted it until we came to a curve. He put both hands back on the wheel, but I retained the weight and favor of his right. On Main Street, Dad parked between the newspaper plant on one block and Sam's sliver of a barber shop in another. "Let's stop in at the paper," Dad said. "Then we'll go get your hair cut." After he unlocked the office door, I ran ahead to the cramped and cluttered ad department, but stopped short when I spied a woman I didn't know sitting at the clunky tanker desk abutting Dad's. A dust-flecked shaft of sunlight lit her copper-colored hair like a halo, and I swear she had the face of the statue of the little flower in church. She must be holy. "Billy," Dad said as he put his hands on my shoulders and presented me to her. "This is my son, Finn." I caught a whiff of the sweet, spicy jasmine that climbed Grandpa's back porch post and gazed into her green eyes like I was staring down one of my friends. She blinked first with long lashes that were thick and dark, and when she smiled and said my name, in a breathy voice, I thrummed like a white-hot lightsaber.
A red-hot lightsaber. Ew. Things are getting spicy, folks. Our next writer will be Walter. Walter has read for us several times, and it's always a pleasure to have him come back and join us. So come on down, Walter. Woo!
If there was any crumbling of any wrappers, it wasn't me. I just want everybody to know. And so, at any rate, I want to thank Julia for such a great program, and also thank Sandy Spring Museum, because I was thinking this is such a great center of art and culture, and it's great that there are places still that encourage people to create art and to enjoy art and to express themselves freely. And I just think it's a great place. You can revel in history and culture here, so I think it's a great thing. But at any rate, I didn't know whether to bring prose or poetry tonight, so I decided to bring one poem and one flash piece, and so you get both. The poem is called The Light, and the poem, The Light, was published in Nashua, I think that's how you pronounce it, Nashua Review a couple of years ago. So this is The Light. Today, I saw a peculiar light, spectral shadows of lost moments, colored shafts of my disremembered past, radiant atoms adrift among the ruins. I saw colors crayon deep, revelation that drove through a colorless night to find me here in this unlit room. It came without warning and left as quickly. A missive, perhaps, I may have sent when I entered the world to reach the person I've become. These colors are the mooring lines that bind me to an ancient pier. I know is there, but cannot see, however long or hard I look. So that is The Light. The flash piece is called Noah, and this is a take on the biblical story. It's the story of Noah. It is I'm going to forewarn you, this is an offbeat version of the story, but that's how I roll. So at any rate, Noah. I stepped into the street, but the street disintegrated beneath my steps. The asphalt was gone, and all that remained was a field of high grass and some trees. The trees were crying, and their burning tears fell from oblong leaves and seared the lapel of my jacket. I noticed that my briefcase had disappeared, and so, then and there, I stood in a field of grass beneath the tree without a briefcase, my suit ruined. The flood was soon to come. In a dream, God spoke to me in a voice that wasn't a voice, in words that weren't words. Nevertheless, I understood God's commandment perfectly. I could have immediately taken up the few tools I owned to build an ark large enough to shelter the animals and save the men and women who wished to be saved. But I didn't build it. I didn't try. Having failed to build it, I had no reason to corral the animals or call upon the people. I didn't care. I should have cared, but I didn't. I walked through the grass at leisurely pace as clouds collected and chaos ensued, and the animals ran in circles, and the people called for deliverance. I stared out toward that distant line, that eternal line where the sky cuts off like a bottom of a page. That's when the ribbon leaves and twiggy stems began to dance, and branches lashed out like whips and were wrenched back and released against their will by the raw wind. The clouds propelled themselves as if fleeing, and they lowered themselves toward the ground and absconded in a rhythmic procession. It was a sullen wind, and like a changing tide, it pulled and shoved the extremities of my body in varying direction. I tried to make sense of the rabid air and the frantic leaves and the animal howls and the human cries, and it seemed like a nightmare, but one that seems very real. It was far from this, and it was far from that. It was something I couldn't understand in the way I had always understood the world, At that moment, I needed to absorb the moment in a new way, a different way. I aspired to witness the world through outside eyes, new eyes, a manner of sight beyond myself. It was an urgent craving, and it consumed me. I needed the true light of the sky, now comprised of so many shades of crimson, to find me. And it was, in fact, a crimson light that pervaded the space above the horizon. It filled the caverns and gullies of the earth. It was crimson mist, but more of an aura, and that there was no light left of the sort to which I was accustomed. This light was real, unlike the synthetic light that leaks, limp and insipid, from the towers and traffic lights that fill the city. It was an ethereal vapor, the kind that floats and embraces and defines the murky edge of a setting sun, bright in its own amorphous way. And it was tenuous, but intoxicating. I was tired. I lay upon the grass and absorbed the light as best I could, but that haze light soon turned dark, deep red, practically black, like ancient firmament, and it was now very difficult to see through that ether. Suddenly, the great mass of the storm surged out of the sky like a whale that rises from the depths and explodes in the air. And God whispered in my ear, in a voice that wasn't a voice, in words that weren't words, "You could have tried to build an ark, and if you tried, it would have been built." But I was incapable of responding in a way that made sense. I tried to fathom why I would let the world collapse around me. I tried to comprehend why I would let countless souls succumb, but I couldn't understand it. Nor could I understand why I had been chosen of all people in all the world to bear such a burden. I couldn't understand any of it, and I felt resentful and guilty and alone. The lightning came, and sure enough, the flood delivered itself upon the earth. The rain poured down in angry sheets, which collected across mountains and plains and rose up from the ground and formed waves. And wave upon wave crashed down upon me as I lay upon my back and floated out, floated somewhere, floated atop the world, which was now one large ocean, as unified and whole as any sea. There was no light left in the world, at least none that I could see through my old eyes. The water subdued my body, and the pain was immeasurable, a fitting punishment. But those waves were delicious, and I was resigned, if not happy, for I had waited so long for a moment like this. Thank you.
Those waves were delicious. That was really unexpected, very unexpected. Our next reader is Farah Kasmi. Come on down. So do we need to do something to say?
Thank you. Oops. Thank you so much, Julia, for giving me the chance to participate in this evening. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is my main topic is about parents. I wrote down a little poems about parents. Parents are the most important people in our life. They help any child to grow in a positive way. Both parents try hard whatever they can do for the child. Children look at them as their role models to follow. And no matter what age we are, we always need our parents to guide us and give us a good suggestions. I wrote down a little poem last month. It's Mother's Day we celebrate. So I wrote down one poem about moms. Mother who lives like a soldier, fight many battles, do wonders. Hide her tears in the dark, her face shine and spark. No one knows mom's story. She covers it with great glory. Mom loves, devotes, and cares. She is unbelievable with grace. Lots of love, prayers for moms. God bless and protects all moms. My second poem is about fathers, which is coming soon on this weekend. Father who loves, cares, and devote. Stand up for family like a sail of a boat. Take all hardship and smile. Take all worries, go extra miles. No one knows what he sacrificed. He hid his pain and gave us a smile. Dad always put his family first. Stay behind, but support is a must. He makes sure family gets food. He brings joy and good mood. Dad give advice and guidance. Keep treasure in his deep silence. Lots of loves and pray for fathers. Hats off to all loving fathers. In the same thing, I'm reading a little bit about immigrants' parents. Standing in a long line of people, thinking about how will I survive in this country? What I'm gonna do? I came from other part of the world. I don't know what to do. Yes, that was the question was popping up in a young boy who came in a very young age in USA, standing in a long line of people on New York airport. But he always decided, no, I need to do something. And finally, he did it. That was my husband, who came in 70s here and put his effort towards everything to settle in this country. Don't know the culture, don't know the language, don't know anything about here, but he did it. Then he got to stand up. Finally, we got married. I came to this country with the same feeling, standing on the airport, but I was lucky to have my husband support me at that time. But I was a little nervous too, because I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, I don't know the people. But still, I always decide, no, I need to settle here too. So we both got settled, going through with challenging time, of course, but giving each other support, we settled down. And then we have our 3 little sons. We started our family, our 3 little sons. Actually, my 2 sons are sitting here right now on the behind. So one of my sons, Ahmed, who's a well-known singer and musician now, he posted his first official video on YouTube about immigrants' parents. He put everything in his song. He expressed emotion and feeling. He admired us, how much his dad put his effort, and now I joined him. Then we both tried to settle and raise our kids in this country. So he expresses everything in this video, that how much struggle the parents go through. That was a very emotional time for me when I watched the video, but I am so proud of him and all my sons. They did it so much, and they really admire us, appreciate us, that whatever sacrifice we did it for them. They are standing on themselves, they are independent, working now. So I would like to share his song with all of you tonight.
Smoke in the air, sun, set on my lungs, see dirt in my nails, moon, shine on my fingers. Something kinda sweet said, set upon my tongue, cause tea might leave my taste bitter, but it can be warm during my winters. Heavy threaded sweaters, I still feel the weather. I might need a little ether. They say I won't feel it either. Every step I take is feeling rocky. I can feel my soul just torn to shreds. Try to rest, but all my days been copies, and my dreams just feel like they dead ends. Yeah, still I can't afford to bend. I know I need to keep ascending. The air is thin, I can't pretend. Same feelings that I'm ending. See, each time I step forth, still feel so behind. If I don't know that I once fell, then it might just help me climb. Then it might just help me shine. Maybe this all just takes time. Smoke in the air, dirt on my face. Can't see the way, but been feeling like the world's coming down on me. But I could hold away for you. Been feeling like there ain't no place to stay, but I could hold a space for you. Been feeling like the world's coming down on me, but I could hold the weight for you. I'm feeling like there ain't no place to stay, but I could hold a space for you.
My two sons are here.
Nope, that's it. That's it for tonight, the projector. Thank you so much for helping with that. So we did have two changes to tonight's lineup. First, I don't know, I think our readers probably noticed, but maybe folks who are attending tonight did not. Lindsay Wagner was going to join us tonight, but she was unable to because she's under the weather, and as is Nancy Lark, who is not able to join us for tonight either. But Nancy has been working really, really hard to be able to get back to being able to share her work tonight, and was very disappointed that she couldn't. So I offered to share it with you on her behalf. She has been, she attended one of my workshops for homegoing that I did earlier in the year, and also one of Vanetta's, I believe, as well. So these are the two pieces that Nancy Lark asked to share tonight. So these are not my work, these are Nancy's. This is called Tully Bab. Tully Bab was dying. He lay on a narrow Jenny Lind bed tucked into the corner of the sleeping porch. It was a muggy July afternoon in 1952. No breeze stirred the fine sandy yard, swept clean that morning of twigs and leaves. Clouds strained to hold back rain until the day ran good and hot. My mother, his only child, fed him cold watermelon. Every now and again, she stopped, giving him time to tilt his head back to let the sweet red water flow down his throat. She gently mopped the juice from his white mustache. Seeing her steal a glance at her youngest child, asleep on the quilt pallet at her feet, the old man sensed she was readying to leave. He groped for the edge of the thin sheet, worried the fabric between his fingers, searching. His lips fidgeted for words he needed to say. With one humid puff, he breathed out, "Yank, I'm sorry." He turned his head to gaze at the parched yard. "I should have done more." "Hush, Daddy, no need for that," Mama lied. She straightened his sheet and her back. "You rest. I'll carry these things to the kitchen." She needed air and water. She found both under a willow tree out of sight of the makeshift sick room. Water from the well sloshed cold and clear in the bucket she wrestled to the top of the stone wall. Mama dipped a large aluminum ladle and watched liquid sunlight drip from its rim. Water. We burst from it at our birth, and it sustains us to our final breath. The time in between can be lush with life, or sere and left wanting. Under whispering willow leaves, a wave of memories threatened to burst over her. Her father's apology had wedged open the way for one memory she had tried to bury for a decade. Over the years, it would come to shape her, and in time, become lodged within me as a tale of betrayal and incomprehensible devotion. She drained the last drop of water from the ladle and felt the heat of the day finally snap. The sky had darkened, and a cool breeze shrouded her shoulders, pushing the memories down. If she hurried, and if the Model A started, she could beat the storm and make it back home in time to start supper. Mama hurried back inside, back through the shadowy hall. She sensed the prickly presence of Tully's second wife, Lizzie, in the darkness. She pushed on to the sleeping porch where she gathered her fussy toddler and the quilt in one swoop. As she bent to tell her daddy bye, dry, bony fingers held her wrist tight with urgency. "She's trying to kill me," he hissed. "Yank, I don't know how she'll do it, but I can't eat. I'm afraid she'll poison me." "Daddy," the word was little more than a sigh. "It's just this heat that's got your imagination running wild. Rain's fixing to cool things down. You'll start feeling better soon." She shifted the baby onto her hip and tried to ignore his pleading look. "Promise me you'll take a few bites of supper tonight? I left some cornbread and green beans on the cupboard. At least have that." She smoothed the sparse hairs on Tully's head and kissed him goodbye. Balancing the baby, she turned her backside into the front screen door to nudge it open. As she pushed her way onto the porch, Mama glanced in toward the gloom of the hallway. Lizzie's sharp features swam out of the shadows. Her flinty stare met Mama's eyes. Mama flinched as her stepmother thrust the plate of cornbread and beans toward her. "You stayed too long. He's plumb wore out now." Lizzie wrenched the screen door inward. With her foot on the bottom step, Mama felt the crack of the screen door slamming back into its frame, felt the reverberations shimmy through her body. Lowering clouds loosened their hold just as she settled her daughter onto the car seat beside her, and fat drops of rain splattered dust into muddy streams on the windshield. Staring straight ahead, Mama cranked the handle beside her to lower the pane of glass. She gulped both air and water in one breath. Gears ground from park to low, and the square box of the Ford rolled slowly down the driveway. From behind the screen, Lizzie watched the car's progress. She saw Mama's hand poke out the window, holding the plate, then tip it over slowly. Beans and cornbread slid off into a defiant trail. They would stay there until feral cats and mangy dogs faced off for the spoils. Now, this next piece is the piece that Lark actually wrote in the workshop that we did here in October for the big read. And I had the opportunity to hear her read it in our workshop, which was really amazing. This is called Greenville County Library. I am the researcher. The place is my hometown library, microfiche, drawers, musty surprises. Day one, drawer one. Flip through, bored, eyes straining, unsure. Familiar name, a thread, interests strumming. Drawer number 2, long shot, inch closer, squint, veer, carom, pinball, but no ding, 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 bust. Drawer 3, obits, dead people, musty, sickly, cloying odor, carnations and gladiolus around the pulpit. Leave now. Day 2, microfiche roll number 1, damned antiquated machine, black on white, white on black, blurry print, bleary eyes. Already? Microfiche roll number 2, wills and probate. Remember sequence, forgot sequence. Call for librarian, again. Microfiche roll number 3, resumed. Now this looks interesting. Scroll, easy, back up, scroll forward. There, that name. Check notes. Land records? Microfiche roll number 18, Greenville News, 1911. Sorry, ma'am, we close at 9 p.m. Rewind, must be careful, pack up. So close. Day 3, book number 2 of 4, land records. Change gears, must be here. A building does not just disappear unless. Day 4, microfiche roll number 2 again. Bingo. Here she is. Well, Grandma's will, at least. That much? This is a weird letter to Grandpa. Hold on. Who the hell is this? Not Grandpa's usual lawyer. Shit, read it again. Oh, Mom, now I get it. I get you. The end. For those of you who did not know what kind of a workshop we were running back in October, we were very, very fortunate to be working with the archivist from the museum, Lydia Frazier, who's over here waving, and we'll be talking in a couple of minutes here. And she pulled out some specific items from the collections here at the museum, and then we worked on using those as inspiration to create new works of art. And so that piece, Greenville County Library, is the piece that Lark did that day with us, which was really exciting. It's amazing. So I think that's it for now, our readers for this part of the program. Thank you for everybody. We are going to take about a 10-15-minute break to give you time to go use the restroom, check out the gift shop, purchase your membership to the Sandy Spring Museum, hint, grab some more refreshments, especially the crinkly kind that I don't want you crinkling during reading. And then we'll reconvene in about 10-15 minutes, and we'll start the big read celebration and reflection after that. So thank you very much, and we'll be back in a little bit. We're going to get started now with the second half of the program, which is a celebration and reflection of our museum's NEA Big Read Grant. So for those of you who weren't around in like spring of last year, I think it was, the very first MoCo Underground, after I learned that the museum had actually been successful in its grant application, applying for one of the Big Read grants through the NEA, the National Endowment for the Arts. Hang on. I could not have been more thrilled. And before we get started with the different reflections from people who have come tonight to talk about the impact of the Big Read on them, over the course of the last year with the programming that we have done, I would like to take a moment. This is just me personally, Julia. I want to take a moment and honor the person who brought me in to the Big Read programming application for the grant, and that is Haley Michael. I still remember when she came to me by email and said, "We think we'd like you to do something, like writing related, for the grant. What do you think?" And thus was born months of meetings and hard work and iterations and drafts and feedback and community engagement from our partners, the Montgomery County Public Libraries, the Olive Branch Community Church across the street, the museum, and MoCo Underground. And together we did it, brought funding to the museum for a year of free programming that is coming to an end this month, and I can't believe that we are already coming to that ending. And with that, I would like to turn it over to the executive director of the Sandy Spring Museum, who is here this evening, Allison Weiss, so that she can share some of her reflections. And we're just going to call a bunch of people up and let you talk about what the big read was for you this year. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. That was a great segue into what I want to talk about. The greatest privilege of my job and the achievement of which I'm most proud is witnessing the magic that happens when we create ways for our community to immerse themselves in the life of the museum. How do we do this? It's really as simple as opening the doors to your creativity. We don't see the museum as a static place. We see it as a living canvas, a dynamic launchpad for community-generated activities. You bring us your ideas, your stories, your dreams, and it's our privilege to help breathe life into them. My small team could not have conceived the 30 extraordinary programs that blossomed into the Big Read without your help. My experience has shown me time and time again that when we open the doors to creativity, creativity doesn't just trickle in, it knocks the door down. The creativity then begets more creativity. It draws in new faces, we forge new connections, we ignite fresh artistic expressions. We meet new artists, we engage new audiences, and together we create a powerful, self-sustaining cycle of innovation. So consider this your personal invitation. Come through that door and pitch your ideas to us and let us create something extraordinary together. The other thing in my job that fills me with immense pride is that we've opened our doors to everyone in the community, from those whose roots run generations deep in the soil to the newest neighbors who have just arrived. And let me be absolutely clear, we are not and we will not be swayed into silence by threats from any source that seek to undermine the fabric of who we are and the values we hold dear. When the current administration announced that they were revoking grants for programmings, including ones like this, that didn't fit into their divisive view of America, our partners from this program called us, filled with fear, and asked if we would cancel their programs. My staff brought this urgent concern to me, and our directive was unequivocal. Assure our partners that we stand shoulder to shoulder with them. I believe that in 20 to 30 years from now, when the dust has settled and the history books are written, people are going to look back and they're going to ask us, where were you then? And when my grandchildren ask me that question, I'm going to look them in the eye and say, I was right here in this room with all of you, doing what we've always done, celebrate our diverse, vibrant community together, and we prevailed.
Allison, that was absolute perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. I think next on this little informal list that I have, which those of you who know me know a little chaos is not unusual for me, especially today. I think, could we get Lydia Frazier to come up here and talk a little bit? Lydia is, I think I've mentioned this already, the archives director for the museum and has been an invaluable assistant in terms of creating some really cool programs.
So Allison, that was really hard to follow. Allison's always telling me, don't read from your notes, don't read from your notes. And so I don't have any notes tonight. So anyone that also knows me, that I absolutely love the collection at Sandy Spring Museum. It is so special. So nothing gives me more joy than to open it up to people who also appreciate it and bring new insights and ways to think about it too. And so when we started talking about the Big Read, we thought about how we could incorporate the collections into some of the writing workshops. And it was, so the way it sort of worked is that the leaders of the workshop would contact me, and we would sort of talk through what sorts of themes, like the more micro themes that they were interested in pursuing in their workshop. And then I would send them some possible objects and whatnot, and then they would choose from that. And it was amazing. Like before I went into this, I knew which ones they were going to pick. No. So we had everything from a bee smoker to what I thought was really powerful was a Benjamin Hallowell, who was a very well-known educator who started at the University of Maryland. At the time it was the Agricultural College. He had created I don't know what you call it, but it had the letters of the alphabet, both in caps and then in lowercase for his grandchildren. And it would have never occurred to me to pull that out, that it was incredibly powerful. And in so many ways, you can approach it in so many ways. So anyway, that's sort of my little anecdote. And it was just, I was so grateful to be able to be a part of this. Thanks.
So I think, Sophronia, would you like to come up? Sophronia is from the Olive Branch Community Church and was in many of the meetings with Haley and Wenhong, and has been a terrific voice, and I'm so glad that you reached out and said that you wanted to come and join us tonight. So welcome.
So, hello. Yes, I'm a member of Olive Branch Community Church and a proud member of the Big Read Initiative and being a partner with the museum and the rest of you. So for our contribution for the Big Read, we actually started working with a group called the DMV Dance Collective. And we've been working with them for about 8 months now. And so for that partnership, I created a series of monologues, stories, kind of in keeping with Ya Jesse's book, about 3 individuals who were enslaved, and they find themselves in a terrible situation, obviously, but they make their way to Sandy Spring. And so you might think, well, what does that have to do with the dance? So we've integrated the dance to illustrate the emotions that are brought forth in the stories. And I'm happy to see one of our dance participants here this evening. So what I'll do for you is read one of the monologues for you. December 1860. My name is Sable, and this is my story. I had been away from my mama Claire almost 2 years. I didn't know where she was. Every day I missed her. She always said we slaves would be free someday, and I prayed every night, please take care of Mama Claire, and I hope he was. That day on the auction block was bad. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't understand why the Lord does what he does. They took my mama, but the Lord gave me Miss Tana. She took good care of me. I went where she went. Most of the time, we were in the kitchen cooking. One day, I dropped Master Boone's biscuits. He got up, was like a big, tall tree over me. He raised his hand, getting ready to hit me. I didn't know what to do. He was so big and tall, and me so little. Miss Tana said, now you know the Lord say, take care of the little children, 'cause to get into heaven, you got to become like a little child. Miss Tana is smart, 'cause she knows Master Boone don't want the Lord to be mad at him. He sat back down. I thought to myself, I hope Miss Tana knows a lot more about the good book, 'cause I'm always dropping something. I didn't like being a slave. One day, Master Boone's grandchildren came by. They was outside playing. I wanted to go, but they wouldn't play with me, and I had to help Tana cook anyway. It seemed like we was always cooking chicken, ham, cakes, pie, and bacon. One day, I got a bad burn from the bacon grease. I don't like cooking. One day, I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher like the peoples who visit Master Boone. Miss Tana takes books from the big house and gives them to me so that I can read when Master Boone not looking. Last week, she gave me a doll she made from pieces of cloth. It didn't have any arms and one leg was missing. I don't think I'll ever forget those bad days. The end. So if you're intrigued by those stories, please come to our performance, which will be on June 28th at 4 p.m. at Olive Branch. Thank you.
June 28th, 4 p.m., right across the street, Olive Branch, folks. Don't miss it. And I'm so glad that one of the dancers is here. If you have anything you would like to share, you're more than welcome to come and join us, too. No, you're going to wait until the 28th. It's all good. It's all good. So next, I'd like to welcome a friend and a wonderful writer and a wonderful member of the literary community. Known her for years, and she did come and teach a workshop for the Big Read, and I would like to invite her to come up and talk about how that went and what the year has meant for her. So come on up, Vanetta.
Thank you, Julia. And I'm going to be one of those people who brags about being tall and move the mic. And as it turns out, Julia and I are also birthday twins. And so we have a special kinship. But no, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to Sandy Spring for having this. And I didn't want to confess, but I feel that I should. When Julia asked me to do the workshop, it was my first time doing a workshop. So I said, are you sure you want me to do this? And she said, no, I trust you. I think you can handle it. So I did a workshop called Questions and Family Stories. And the reason why I called it that was because I think there are a lot of family stories, stories that we know, stories that perhaps we don't know. There's always the things that we don't talk about. And I think the thing that is the most important of that is asking the questions. Even asking a question can cause a lot of shame. And I think shame is something that none of us really need to go around with. I think gravity does enough work in making us weigh what we all weigh. So without shame, we might weigh, I don't know, maybe at least a few ounces less. So in my workshop, I focused on, what are the questions that you have about your ancestry, your genealogy. My father and I were estranged. He passed away about 10 years ago. And while I grew up with him, I had a lot of questions about who he was as a person. What cartoons did he like to watch as a kid? He was a minister, but did he always want to be a minister? These are not questions that in doing genealogical research I was able to answer, but the simple fact that I had asked the questions wound up opening a lot of other doors, shall we say, including learning that perhaps the man he thought was his father wasn't actually his father. Ooh, so all the things that you wind up learning when you simply ask a question. So that was the thing that I got a lot of joy out of doing this workshop. So thank you, Julia, for inviting me to do this thing that I had never done, which now I can say I have done. And that was the thing that I want to invite you all into. You know, what are the things that, you know, there's always the thing that, oh no, we don't talk about that. There's a good story there. And when I say a good story, it might be a story that you actually have to make up. But in order to do that, you got to ask the question first. So thank you.
Here's to asking the questions. So next up, I would like to invite somebody who probably doesn't even know how much of an impact she has had on me as a writer and as a human being. I want to be completely open and tell you all that when I started thinking about doing this writer's workshop, and I was thinking about names and thinking about what I was hoping to accomplish with it, this person was the person that I reached out to and asked, am I out of my tree on this one? Seriously. She gave me great guidance. She gave me honesty and candor, and not to mention the fact that her writing has changed my own writing. And I'm just a huge fan of her as a human being and as a writer, and I'm so excited that she did agree to teach a workshop for MoCo Underground as part of the Big Read. So please welcome Tyrese Coleman.
I'm also tall, so I'm gonna lift this up. I want to thank Julia for reaching out and inviting me to be a part of this. I feel honored and so very special to be even, reached out to, considered, thought of. Thank you so much for thinking so highly of me. I don't know if I deserve it, but I'll take it. Thank you so much to Sandy Spring Museum for really putting in the effort to bring out stories of marginalized communities, whether it be through this program, through the exhibits that are here, through the historical preservation that you do, and all the work that happens here. I live right down the street, and I love I love just driving by this building. Like, it's so gorgeous. And so thank you for everything you do in this community. So my workshop was about speculating and writing speculative prose. And what speculative prose is a bunch of different things, but mostly it is taking information that's based on fact and then using that information to speculate on a story, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. And so what I wanted to do and what we did was take some of the artifacts in the museum and use them sort of as inspiration to speculate on whether it be the past, the present, or the future with respect to your ancestral stories or stories about yourself. I like to do this in my own work. I write nonfiction primarily, and one of the things that I really have sort of honed in on is the ability to mesh facts with the thought process of speculating towards what those facts could mean when you're not in the presence of the people who are actually creating those facts. So for example, I wrote about my ancestors as I speculated about them through the course of using research and determining, okay, well, I don't know who these people were or how they got here, but I've learned about the tribes from the areas in which my ancestors come from. I learned about my ancestral name, and so now I am going to allow myself to speculate on where my ancestor may have come from and how they may have gotten here, and I'm going to write a story about that and them. So I used some of the artifacts here to sort of direct our conversation. One was the alphabet book, and another was a cherry pitter, which I thought was the most amazing thing. It looked like a spider to me in my mind. And so we used that. We also used, I think, an old bottle of medicine, a box of buttons, I believe. There were a bunch of different artifacts. And so I tasked the students in my workshop to use those artifacts to allow themselves to create stories. And they could create a story that is sort of allowing them to speculate on their own past. So I had one student who was really drawn also to the cherry pitter, and she wrote about and asked herself questions about her own personal relationship with cherries and where that came from. And she had mentioned that it was very sort of serendipitous that we were talking about this cherry pitter that looked like a giant spider, and she also had a very strong and long history with cherries, and not just cherries, but the color cherry as a smell, like just, you know, everything associated with cherries, even though she actually hated to eat them. So she used that to sort of create thoughts and a story around herself and to further self-examine. And we also, and the other student in my class, because it was a prose class, not just about nonfiction, she used those artifacts to sort of help her envision stories about her speculative fiction novel that she was working on. So I had different points of view from the folks that were in my class, and it was nice because it was a small group of us, and it was almost as if it was a one-on-one sort of studio kind of thing, which was really cool. And I got to get to know them personally, and we just clicked, and it felt so organic and nice. And I think that is sort of what, even though, you know, you come with an idea that you're going to do a whole group kind of thing, and it's going to be this big class, it was nice to have just that very intimate one-on-one session with these students, because I think a greater impact is made when you're able to connect with someone in such an intimate setting. And we had a really good time. We did a lot of thought exercises. I am a very, I like to meditate as I write. I like to write with intention. And so we spent a lot of time really focusing on what exactly we were trying to say. I discourage people a lot from just like writing off the top of their head as if it's like some magical thing. I like people to focus and think consciously about what they want to say. And so we spent a lot of time sort of having a significant thought process and going down the rabbit holes of our recesses and speculating what we wanted to write about. So it was a wonderful experience. I'm really sad as a federal employee on my day job that you know, these things are happening, and that the NEA is one of the programs that is on the chopping block, because it really prohibits you know, our creativity as a country and a community. And I do hope that in the future we are able to still have these things, but I appreciate Sandy Spring Museum dedicating themselves to making that happen regardless. So thank you.
It's all right, Vanetta left it up too, I think, didn't you? Oh, well, I think to start bringing things to a close, there are two further things. I would like to share a reflection from Nancy Lark, who could not be here tonight, that she shared with me earlier today. And yes, I have to pull it up because I didn't actually, you know, print it out ahead of time, because that would be non-chaotic. And what's the fun in that? Nancy Lark has, she was experiencing some health issues, and she sent this to me. She's been trying so hard to get back here tonight, and I am grateful that she is here tonight with us, even though she can't be here present in person. I'm very grateful for her sharing her work with us and for sharing this reflection, which to me really captured, I think, everything that we were hoping that the Big Read programming in the community would become and the impact it would have. So this is what Nancy wrote. Ya Jesse's novel left a profound effect on me. It was a pleasure to explore the book and experience the richness of the writing through the 2 workshops I was able to attend. But the book itself afforded me an unexpected gift. Lying on my tray table in the hospital and in rehab, the book's cover and author's name drew the attention of nurses and aides who were providing care for me. Doors opened for meaningful connections with those from Ghana who recognized Jesse's name. I asked M, a wonderful nurse, if she would translate the words of the children's song. She not only translated it, she remembered singing it herself as a child in her home country. That moment was magical. The lives of Effia and Essie and the brutal history we all bear today took on a deeper and more personal reality for me, and I won't forget that. So thank you so much for that, Lark. And now to kind of close things off, I've been hesitating on how candid to be in regards to events that are unfolding around us and how those things are impacting our communities and our arts especially. And I was starting to think about the process of when Haley first came to me about the Big Read, and she said, okay, here's the process. Here's a list of 50 books from the NEA that we need to narrow it down to the one book that our community is going to engage on this trip. Go. I had never done anything like that. I looked at the list of books, and it was a lot, like 50 books, to try to narrow it down and feel that responsibility for if this is the book that we're going to study as a community, that we're going to engage with. Like, that's a big responsibility, and I took it very, very seriously. And so I've been thinking a lot about that this week, about that list of 50 books that the NEA thought were so worthwhile. Every single one of those books was profound and meaningful and spoke to a very specific time or a specific cultural event in our world. There wasn't a single one on there that I thought was a throwaway, that I thought was fluff, that I thought wouldn't be a great book for the community. They were all very worthy books. And so I hesitated as I started writing this piece, so it's in progress. I don't have a list of 50 books. But I did come up with a list of 50 books in progress that I think the new NEA may actually be handing out for their Big Read grant recipients this year. And please know, they're all actual books. Number 1, The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. Number 2, Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. Number 3, Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance. Number 4, the Lee Greenwood Bible, except Matthew 5:7. Look it up. And number 5. Number 5, The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Number 6, The Prince by Machiavelli. Number 7, An American Son by Marco Rubio. Not kidding, these are all real books. Number 8, The Battle for the American Mind by Pete Hegseth. Number 9, a biography, Scott Bessent, The Visionary Investor by Frank S. Diaz. Number 10, The Power of Reinvention, a biography of Linda McMahon by Ashley L. George. Number 11, We Have Never Been Woke by Musa Al-Garbi. Number 12, Hiroshima by John Hersey. Number 13, Guns, Crimes, and Freedom by Wayne LaPierre. If you don't know who that is, former head of the NRA, yeah. Number 14, another one about Linda McMahon, The Power of Reinvention, a journey of business, politics, and legacy. 15, The Real Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and the Global War on Democracy and Public Health by Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. 16, Good Energy, the surprising connection between metabolism and limitless health by Casey Means, MD, and Callie Means. If you don't know who those folks are, you probably want to look them up. Number 17, Mandate for Leadership, The Conservative Promise. Forward by Kevin Roberts, PhD, edited by Paul Dans and Stephen Groves, and nothing absolutely at all to do with Project 2025. They're completely different things, completely different. 18, No Going Back by Christy Nome. 19, Old Yeller by Fred Gibson. 20, another Scott Bessent book, Scott Bessent, biography, hedge fund visionary and market strategist by Timothy K. Boone. 21, For Capital Punishment by Walter Burns, Crime and the Morality of the Death Penalty. 22, The Statesmanship of Andrew Jackson, as told in his writings and speeches by Andrew Jackson. 23, Nathan Bedford Forrest, In Search of the Enigma by Eddie W. Davison and Daniel Fox. 24, For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind by Tulsi Gabbard. 25, Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. Poor Walter. 26, Grinding It Out, The Making of McDonald's by Ray Kroc. 27, The Day They Fell from the Sky, 10 lone survivors and their harrowing and incredible true stories of plane crash survival by Oliver Martin Cass. 28, Evita, The Legend of Eva Perón by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice. 29, an old favorite, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. 30, How to Make Money in Stocks, a Winning System in Good Times or Bad by William J. O'Neill. 31, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO by Mike Lindell. I thought that one would get you. 52, The Biden Crime Family, The Blueprint for Their Prosecutions by Rudy Giuliani with a foreword by Stephen K. Bannon. 33, Progress and Martial Law by Ferdinand E. Marcos. I think, yeah, that's as far as I got. That was 34. That was 33 out of 50. I'm sure we can add a few. Those are all real books. And when I was thinking back to a year and a half ago and the list of 50 books that I was given to look at and say, these are the books that are meaningful, that are powerful, that are profound records of who we are as a people, as our reflections of our history. And so now I have to wonder what the list will look like in the future. But I'm setting it down now so that you know somewhere there's a record that it was different. And we'll be back. We're not going anywhere. So I want to thank all of you for coming tonight together in community, in culture, in friendship, in activism, in passion, in joy, and friendship. And I hope that everybody has had a good time tonight, that you have made new friends, that you have found a new favorite place to spend time when you have free time, which I hope you'll come and spend it here at the museum. I will thank everybody who was involved in the big read, the museum. Thank you to MMCTV for being here tonight to record this program. We sure appreciate it. And if anybody is interested in reading for MoCo Underground, I still have spaces for our August 7th reading. That is online. It's not here at the museum. But sadly, I'm fully booked for the rest of the year after August, right? Yeah. So thank you. What? We will be back in October when we have a regular MoCo Underground event. I can't remember what day that is. That's why I have those QR codes back there so that you can look at them and find things I can't remember. That's why they're there. And then in December, we actually swapped out. We were going to do a virtual reading, and then Washington Writers Publishing House reached out and asked if we would like to do an event dedicated to the publication of their anthology, The Future of America. That one, that's going to be on fire. So make sure that you come for that one. And that will be in person right here at the museum. So I thank all of you for coming tonight. I hope you had a wonderful time. There's like 5 minutes left. If there are books back there that you would like to buy, go do that. If you didn't get your membership yet, go do that. And I will see you hopefully all in August when you all log into Zoom and join us for the next reading. Thank you.